The Lobo Coaches Show is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Hello everybody and welcome into your Lobo Coaches Show, our inaugural show for 2021. It is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. With head football coach at UNM, Danny Gonzalez, I'm Robert Portnoy. Danny, it's great to be on My 50 TV for this year.
It's awesome.
I'm really pumped about that. It's good, it's local, and I know Lobo fans are excited.
Oh, it's awesome. And now we're doing a preview show. I mean, this is even better. I mean, it's almost football season. We start Thursday, and this is awesome.
That was a perfect tease from Coach. We're going to give you a breakdown of the offense, the defense, the special teams, and a little look at HBU, Houston Baptist, the Lobos' first opponent today. Coach G, so let's just jump right in first off with camp. Training camp concluded, 3+ weeks in all. What did you think of the guys?
You know, I thought it was good that we actually got to have a camp here and had a true fall camp. Last year, we were practicing in small groups. We didn't have one full practice before our first game. So this was exciting, and we got to put them through a full day of walkthroughs, meetings, eat, rest, practice. I mean, you name it. And we tried to practice some days when it was hot and some days at night. So we gave them a little bit of mixture of all, and I thought it was a good camp. I think we still have some improvement to go, but we're heading in the right direction.
Lobo fans know that much of last season for the Lobos was spent in Las Vegas, and I thought you were asked an interesting question this week about what you learned from last year in that unique scenario that you kind of can maybe take forward as you get back to something close to normal.
You know, the meeting time that we had early on in the small groups, I thought it was really beneficial for the freshmen. They got a lot of individualized coaching, which gave them an opportunity to play. Now, last year didn't count because of the COVID year, so they got to play every single game, and they got what I truly believe they should have 5 years to play 5. And so those guys, that experience that they got playing at that level, at that speed, it's tremendous. So we tried to get the individualized coaching this year at the beginning of camp, and then now we'll see if it pays off when we play this week.
All right, you've got Houston Baptist coming up. You're fully into game week. An interesting first game week because you're playing on a Thursday night ahead of the Labor Day weekend. So your Tuesday was Sunday. How are they looking?
You know what? It was a good week of preparation. Thursday was important to me because being from here, I know Labor Day is a big weekend for people here in Albuquerque, and they want to go Elephant Butte and do those things, go camping for the last time before winter. So we gave them an opportunity to come out on Thursday night to watch the game, and we did. We practiced Sunday morning early. We brought the guys in at 6. Typically Sunday's a church day, so they had to go to church in the afternoon. But we tried to make it as realistic as a week as we can. So we practiced Sunday morning, this morning, and then we'll practice again tomorrow and get ready to play Thursday.
As you know, Coach Gonzalez learned under Coach Long, always the toughest teams in the league from day one. That's what you've liked, to see from your guys. Mm-hmm. You're now in year 2. Has that ramped up?
We've made strides. We're not quite there yet. We still have to explain the fine details of why we do certain things and why they're important. As soon as that's coming from the older guys and only the older guys, we'll be there. So we still have a little ways to go. I mean, there was a point in practice today where having to get after them from drill to drill on why it's important to do that. It's the little details. I mean, we tell them all the time, you're watched. And when you think you're not being watched and evaluated is when you're being watched and evaluated the most. And so to keep them on the same path towards that direction, and that's all a part of the toughness aspect. I mean, they make it harder to be tough with some of the rules that they've changed, but that's okay. There's other ways to do it, and we'll get there.
Changing a culture doesn't happen overnight. How much do you have to guard against, taking a step back? You take a couple steps forward, then you take a step back. Is that kind of always there and you have to stay on them?
Always. I don't think that ever changes. But I'm glad you brought up the word culture and changing culture. When you take over a program and you hear every coach say this, well, I got to change the culture. It's not because there was a bad culture or it was the culture was wrong. It was just not my culture. It's not what I expect from our football team, and it's not the way I want to do things. So changing that and getting them to understand our expectation, and we have a pretty good model. I mean, we've won conference championships in this league. We know what it takes, and so now just getting them to buy in. And we had great buy-in in Vegas. If we didn't, we would have. If we go 0-7, the buy-in's completely different. And those last 2 weeks having success, they believe in what we're doing. They see that it actually works, and so now we're headed in the right direction, and I really believe that heartily.
Something that I've noticed, something Lobo fans have noticed, is a culture shift department-wide. I see something happening with UNM athletics right now that just warms my heart. Of course, 6 championships helps last spring.
For sure.
That's huge. But that doesn't just happen. And I really do feel like something special is happening right now on South Campus.
You know, Eddie's done a great job, and it starts at the top. We're all in this together. We are New Mexico, and it takes everybody collectively to be successful. And our athletic department is bought in. I mean, it starts with the kids, though. They're supporting each other. I mean, you see student athletes at every sporting event, and I hope they all come out Thursday night. I hope it looks just like the soccer game did in the March when we played for the championship against San Diego State. That's the way it should be, and we're headed that way. The kids actually like being around each other, and it makes it better for everybody.
There are maybe some generations of Lobo fans that don't remember 35,000 in University Stadium. You've seen it happen. You know it can happen.
Oh, yeah. We averaged over 35,000. That's the way it should be. It's not what can be, it's how it should be. I mean, we need to paint this town cherry. I mean, we're the show in town. It's a Lobo town. Now, I get it. If you win, they'll come. Believe in what we're building here. Have faith. Believe in it. Because I promise you're going to win a conference championship. And when we do, I mean, this town's going to be more than cherry.
Boy, winning gets so contagious and so infectious. And you guys won those last 2 last year. Had been so long since you'd beaten Fresno State. You took down Wyoming. What did that mean for your team going into this season?
It gave them a lot of belief in the process. Like I said, if we go 0-7, we're trying to convince them that this works. It's easier for the naysayers to say they don't know what they're talking about. It's passed them by, all that stuff. Hasn't been that long since we won championships. And they believe in what we're doing now. Not that they didn't before, but because we didn't change when we were 0-5, and I publicly said, you know, we're terrible. We're a terrible football team. I think they took that as, you know what, he's right. We do have to change some things. They showed up to work to change things, and here's where we're at.
All right, we're going to take our first break on your Lobo Coaches Show. We start our breakdown with the offense and a brand new quarterback leading that offense next. The Lobo Coaches Show is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Welcome back on your Lobo Coaches Show with the head football coach at UNM, Danny Gonzalez. I'm Robert Portnoy, and Coach G, it's time to break down your offense for 2021. I know you've got some real experience on the O-line, and we'll get to that. But it starts with the signal caller, and you had a plan for this year at the quarterback position, didn't you?
You know, it was no secret. I mean, I actively told our guys, you know, we're going to hunt a grad transfer quarterback to come in and compete. It doesn't mean it's going to be his job, but we're going to try and find a guy that you're going to have a really hard time beating. And if they do, it means it's better for all of us. Terry Wilson is a young man that transferred in from Kentucky who was 17-8 in the SEC. That's, I mean, you hear it on TV all the time. It's the best league. Well, I don't care what it is. He's won at a high level. And so he came in, competed, and did a great job, and we named him the starter last week. I think his leadership and his command of the offense is great. And I think Coach Wareheim and Coach Merringer have done a phenomenal job getting him ready to play.
Terry Wilson went 17-8 in 25 starts with Kentucky. He won 2 bowl games. They won 10 games in his first year as a starter. And I'll tell you what, Coach G, when I watched 11 minutes of a highlight reel of Terry's final season, last season at Kentucky, it wasn't the great throws that stood out to me. It wasn't the great runs that stood out to me. It was the ability to go from read 1 to read 2 to read 3, know exactly where the check down is, and get the ball out, get out of harm's way. Have you seen that during camp? Does he bring the command that you would think a graduate transfer would bring?
He does. You know, that what you said, he had a great understanding of what Kentucky was trying to do on offense. And in the short time he's been here now, he's been meeting with Coach Merringer and Coach Wareheim over Zoom since about March. And then he got here in June. What he's done in a short period of time to be able to master what we're doing has been really impressive. It makes me a little bit nervous sometimes because we don't hit the quarterbacks, and he's not afraid to stand in there. Now I'm like, come on, man, T-Dub, are we worried? I mean, you know you're not going to get hit, so you're saying, Coach, I'm all right. I'll go through the reads. When I need to get out of here, I'll get out of here. And if you watch his highlight tape, when he gets out, he gets out. So, I mean, I've got all the faith in the world in him, and I'm excited to watch him play.
Coach G's right about when he gets out, he gets out. In fact, Coach G said after the first scrimmage during camp, there were a couple of times where he thought if you could hit him, that your defense wasn't going to catch him.
We might not have got him. And, I mean, that's a positive. Now, the guys that he beat, Isaiah and Trey and really CJ and Bear, but Isaiah and Trey, who have the most experience coming back, it was a great competition. And we have packages for those two guys. I mean, you're going to see Isaiah Chavez in football games this season. You're going to see Trey Hall in football games this season. And not only if Terry gets hurt or something happens to him, God forbid, I hope Terry stays healthy all season. But I think those guys are very important to our football team, and they've earned the ability to play. And when you have a package for somebody, it makes it really hard for defenses to prepare for those kind of things. You never know when they're going to come. Shoot, there might be times you see all three of them on the field at the same time. And so who knows what we're going to do.
All right, so the Lobos have some real quality depth at the quarterback position. One more thought on Terry Wilson. They talk about a dual threat quarterback. He's certainly maybe the best the Lobos have had since Donovan Portery. Coach Gonzalez knows a lot about Donovan. I call Terry Wilson a triple threat because not only can he run and he can throw, but he can do both off script. When everything blows up, he can run to throw, he can escape to run and make a big play. I call him a true triple threat at quarterback.
You know, if you go all the way back to the early 2000s, Casey Kelly, who's the second winningest the winningest quarterback, in all time here at UNM. And then you have Donovan Portery follow him, who won a bunch of ball games for us when we were here before. I think that's a great comparison. I think Terry has a little bit of both of them. If Terry plays up to his ability, I mean, he could have a really special year. And if he has a special year, guess what? That means the Lobos had a special year.
All right, we got to get to a break, but give me just a few seconds on that really experienced O-line that you have. You already talked about your wideouts and a nice group of running backs.
You know, I'm really excited about the offensive line. We're still, Jacob Jankowiak, I think, has solidified himself at the right tackle. He'll get the start on Thursday night. Those guys really came to their own at the end of last season. And it's going to take those guys playing well to keep Terry healthy. So I'm excited to see him. I mean, if we can run the ball, we'll be a good football team.
And in terms of the running backs, you've got Bobby Cole leading a really good group.
You know, Bobby Cole is he's a hard physical runner. I mean, he's the epitome of what I want to describe as for the football team. And then you throw Aaron Dumas in the mix and Bobby Wooden and Chad Alexander. We've got a combination there, a punch. And we got another young man on campus, Nate Jones, who has to do some things to get back into our good graces, but he's out here practicing, trying. And so we've got a stable of running backs that over the next few years I think can be the best in this league.
All right, time for a break. We come back, we look at the Lobo defense. The Lobo Coaches Show is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. We're back with Lobo head football coach Danny Gonzalez on your Lobo Coaches Show. I'm Robert Portnoy. Now we get to talk about what's really close to your heart, and that's
for sure.
The Lobo defense. How'd they look in camp?
We made improvement. We still have a long way to go to get where I think we can get. The physical, nasty nature of it, they're starting to understand what we want. And I think you saw a little bit of it in the last two games. Now we gave up way too many big plays in the secondary, both against the run and the pass. And then up front, we didn't get enough pressure on the quarterback until the last game. So that has to improve for us to have a chance to be successful. We don't have the entire package in, but that's a 3 to 4 year process because they have to understand schematically the concepts of what we're trying to do. Where you can call things that we haven't called for 3 or 4 years and all of a sudden it's no big deal. They know what to do. We're not there yet. We'll get there. We're significantly further ahead than we were last year at this point.
There were still some occasions last season with not the entire package installed where you had some experienced quarterbacks in this league confused. I know that you and Coach Long are in the lab all the time. How much fun is that?
Oh, I mean, I've been spoiled with it to be able to do it with him for the last 22 years. And sometimes we do it together. Sometimes we do it separate, and then we come together and try and collaborate what we do. It's been a lot of fun. And having him back here where he belongs, what I feel, has been awesome. And we've got a great start. We've got a lot of work to do, and he'll be the first one to tell you. But we can capitalize on the things that we did last year good and be better this year.
It's no secret. I was surprised that no one asked you this at your presser this week ahead of the Houston Baptist opener. But the back end of your defense, the secondary, in particular the corners, it was a rough spot last year. Mm-hmm. The focus is going to be on them this season. Do you think they take a step forward?
Through camp, I believe so. It's all coming down to whether or not they make plays. There was a lot of times in camp that they were in great coverage and the receivers caught the ball. There was times in camp they were in great coverage and they made plays. We have to make more than we don't. And last year, I'm not used to that. I'm not used to giving up deep balls like that over and over and over. And so that needs to be the biggest improvement that we come across. And if we do that, then we'll improve statistically on defense. Now, there's really only one statistic that matters, and that's keeping them out of the end zone. Unfortunately, I get so involved in all those other things because I want to be the best at everything we do. They hear about where we're at statistically, and I want them to take a pride in it because we can be a top 25 team. We can be a top 10 team in the country in total defense because we've done it before.
The defensive line is led by Joey Noble. I know the defense benefits from having some experience coming back. but he's a guy that could be someone who wreaks havoc this year, isn't he?
Absolutely. Now, Joey will be suspended for the first half of this game because he got ejected in the second half of the Fresno game. From a teaching moment, we want him to play on the edge. We want him to be so close to being over the top that they're going to occasionally get penalties. We had the opportunity to teach him, hey, man, you can't go after the head. He got a forearm to the helmet. If he doesn't do that, he's not suspended for the first half. So he'll learn from that. But he's got a chance to be one of the best defensive linemen in this league. And he's had a really good offseason, so I'm excited about where he's going.
It's the difference between playing with emotion and playing with passion. Explain that to the fans.
Emotionally, when you play with emotion, you make a lot of mistakes. It's in life in general. If you react off emotion, if you say something off emotion, it's usually the wrong thing. And when you're passionate about something, you put a lot of time and investment into it that usually you have a better reaction. So we talk to our kids all the time. You've got to have emotion, but you got to control it, and that's controlling it with passion. If you react emotionally, just like coaches on the sideline, if you act like a fool, it doesn't do any good but give your team a bad representation, and the referee's going to come back and get you anyway. So be passionate, don't be emotional.
Give us 30 seconds on your all-conference safety, Jarek Reed, a player who actually didn't play his best football till after you sat him down, right?
We've had a fun relationship, and this is one of the reasons that I love coaching. I have a belief in the way that he can be his best. And those young men, the stubborn ones, have a belief in how they think they're going to be the best. And somewhere it usually falls in between. We had a rough patch at first, and it was never a matter of I didn't like him. It was a matter of you're going to do it the right way because you've got an opportunity to be a great player. And Jarek has done everything I've asked, especially, the Utah State game was one of those nights that he had a bad night in my opinion, and we had a great talk about it. He didn't start the last two games and was still all-conference first team. I think Jarek has a chance to be a special player here, and I'm excited to watch him.
All right, we're going to look at special teams and preview HBU on the other side of this timeout. The Lobo Coaches Show is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Back to wrap up the inaugural edition of your Lobo Coaches Show for 2021 with head football coach at UNM, Danny Gonzalez. I'm Robert Portnoy. Coach G, another place that's close to your heart is the special teams unit. I know there were some real battles in the special teams unit during camp.
There is. Special teams is 1/3 of the game. Every possession ends in a kick of some kind. So those guys have to be really important. I view the kickers and punters as erasers. We've made mistakes that those guys have to come in and erase so that we have a chance to continue to be competitive. And between the punters right now, Jared Long and Aaron Rodriguez have done a great job in the competition. I think we're going to go with Aaron on Thursday. And then George Steinkamp and Andrew Shelley, that's still yet to be determined. And it might be determined when I call field goal for the first time and I'll haul one of their names out. It could be that late in the competition. It's been close. I need those guys to be good.
Lobos have historically been very good in the kicking game. They've also been really good in the return game. Manny Logan Green heading the group of returners?
He is on both kickoff return and punt. Dante Martin might be back there on kickoff return. And then another local fan favorite, Luke Wysong. He's kind of moving his way through the avenue to get himself a chance to get on the field there. Joe Flores is a young man, a wide receiver from New Mexico, that he catches everything. So if we need a for sure catch, he's probably going to be the one that's in there. But we've got some athleticism, and some of those true freshmen that we talked about earlier playing will significantly help on the depth of special teams this year.
Okay, let's take a little look at HBU, Houston Baptist, the Lobos' opponent, week 1 on a Thursday night at University Stadium. It's a team that really can throw the football, can't they?
They can. They didn't play in the spring. They played in the fall like the rest of us. They played 4 games. They beat Eastern Kentucky, and they lost a close one to Texas Tech, who really they could have beaten. And then they played Louisiana Tech and North Texas. Now, Louisiana Tech and North Texas got after them on offense a little bit, but they scored a lot of points. They can throw the ball well for over 500 yards a game. They've got some great skill athletes. The quarterback, he doesn't have a lot of reps from last year. It's not the same starter they had last year. He had 6 runs and 1 pass last year, so we don't have a lot of him on tape. But if you watch his high school tape, great athlete, and he can throw it. So we've got our work cut out for us on the defensive side of the ball.
What about their defense? As I watched during practice this week in the scout, it looks like they always have 3 down and maybe that 4th down occasionally, but he's kind of a buck. They'll move him around. What do they like to do defensively?
Because we're a 3 down front for the majority, our offense has been seeing that through fall camp, which will help. They got better through the year last year. There was times that they gave up big plays like us in the secondary. Against Eastern Kentucky, they cleaned that up. So they got better. They give you some different looks. Hopefully our different looks will help our offense prepare for what they're going to see on Thursday night. But they made great improvement through the 2020 season, which means we've got a great challenge ahead of us.
Coaching and preparation, one of the big reasons why a team like Danny Gonzalez's can compete with a team, say, in the Pac-12. Houston Baptist has a bunch of Texas athletes on its roster, and they coach them up in high school football in Texas, don't they?
They do. Texas high school football is one of the best in the country. And it's important to them. It starts when they're young. So they've got a lot of kids that have been coached at a high level since they were yay big. So, I mean, they'll have good players.
All right. What do you think is a key or two to a Lobo victory in Week 1 against Houston Baptist?
Obviously, on defense, we can't give up the big play. I mean, they can't throw the ball over the top. We've got to be able to go. We've got to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. Now, we take a great pride in nobody's going to run the ball on us. So we got to stop them from running the ball when they want to run it with the quarterback, but we can't give up big plays over the top.
30 seconds or so. Terry Wilson's first live snaps as your quarterback. What are you looking for from him?
You know, I'm looking for him to stay calm. Use his experience, let the O-line do their thing, and then he can deal the ball, whether it's handing off or throwing it to our wide receivers. And I think we have a couple really young wide receivers between Keontae and Luke, and then you got Manny and Zarek Scruggs who can really give him some targets, so I'm excited to see what he does.
And I know you're so excited to have your first game as a head coach in University Stadium.
It's awesome. You know, last year it wasn't that big of a deal because we were just trying to find a way to play. Well, now we've got an opportunity in front of our fans at home, in front of my family, and I say it all the time, I'm related to half the city, so show up. Let's paint this town cherry.
Thank you, Coach Gonzalez.
Thank you.
That's it for your first edition of the Lobo Coaches Show. Go Lobos.
Go Lobos.
Shotgun snap and a handoff to Cole, and Bobby will go in untouched. Lobo touchdown, Bobby Cole. Hayner flushed out of the pocket by Saltonstall, and Saltonstall comes back to get him.
Mighty boys, go